Should we get started then?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. And so where are we at in the process here? The goal here is to be able to provide live captioning of remote learning sessions. Is that right?
Correct. For either live, like this, or recorded. And people are using mostly Zoom, but then there are some people using like Google Slides and different things as well.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, we don't care at all what platform you're using. So it's going to be the same approach, whether you're using Google Meets or a Skype phone call or Zoom or whatever it might be. So it'll be identical in all those cases. There is a difference, though, between captioning a live event or a recorded event. So let's see, where should I start? I think I'll start with the process of caption. Well, let's start with the very end. So let me shrink down those slides. We really don't need those too much. Moving around a lot of Zoom windows here, which you can't see. But this is the captioning. This is how it works. And so this is what a student would see on their end. They have the ability to view a captioning of what you're saying. And the student, depending on how you set it up, will also have the ability to download a transcript. So at the end of the lecture, if you want to give them that ability, they can download the transcript. You can turn that off. So if you're not comfortable with them doing that, by all means, just turn that capability off. I'll show you how to do that. The student also has the ability, as this captioning is being displayed to them, to add their own personal notes to it. And so over on the right here, I hope you can see this. Jump in at any point if anything's confusing. But over on the right column here, the student can create their own note categories. And so their own notes and colorize them however they want. And so if, for example, during a live remote stream, there's something that they didn't understand, they're just going to double click on this. And when they do that, it's going to get directly inserted into their private copy of the transcript. It's not something that anybody else can see. It's just the student's version of that. And so the student, again, has the ability to create these notes. That's done through the account settings. I won't go through that right now, but they can easily create their own notes and insert them into the live transcript. And then if you give them the permission to download a transcript, they'll go ahead and do that. And I'll show you that right now. So up here in streamer settings in the upper right corner, the student would then be able to download that transcript. They could select it for the last hour or all day, whatever it might be. And then they can save it in a Word document. We also have this nice little feature that summarizes the contents of that lecture. So if it's an hour-long lecture on, I don't know, George Washington or something like this, at the very top will be a few sentences that summarize what that transcript is all about. So some kind of nice features here for students. So again, we're starting at the end. This is what the student will be able to do and see and add notes and all the above with this capability. Now on your end, once everything is configured, all you're going to do is double click on a desktop icon. And so that's all it takes to start the captioning on your end. And the student would do the same. They're just going to double click on a desktop icon that will be created for them, and then everybody is going to be able to view the captioning. You have the ability to turn on and off the captioning for the student, and so if you're giving a lecture where you just want them to listen and not jump in and start captioning what they're saying, you would turn that feature off. And if at some point during the lecture or you're just doing a group discussion, whatever it might be, you can open up the microphones and let the students comment on or caption what the students are saying, just as it's captioning me right now. Any questions so far? Let me pause for a minute because I've been kind of rambling here.
I have a question, Rob. So this is Heather. So the students also need to log into this. This won't just be automatically showing up on whatever the teacher is using?
Well, we can do open captionings, which means that it will be, then every student will see it. So right now I'm talking about closed captioning. And so in the closed captioning scenario, the way I define that is what closed captioning means is that just the students that want to view the captioning will do so. And they'll do that in whatever language they want. So if they want to see it in Spanish or Vietnamese or Cambodian or whatever it might be, they'll be able to view the captioning in that mode. Okay, now with open captioning, everybody is going to see it. So in that scenario, the student doesn't do anything. They just log into Zoom like they normally would log into Zoom.
I think that probably is where, you know, the point of this is so that students are getting the captioning without having to do those extra steps, because not all the students are going to do that.
Okay, yeah, and certainly you can do both. In talking with lots of districts, you know, probably 1,000 districts right now, closed captioning actually is the preferred approach. That seems to be the one that people are settling in with. But you can do either, and I'll show you both. And in particular, if you're using Zoom, give you a little advance notice here. By this time next week, we will have Streamer directly integrated into Zoom's, they call it token. So Zoom has the capability for a human transcriptionist to be captioning a Zoom meeting. And we're going to have a module written by then that allows you to tie a Streamer into that. So again, that's probably 7 days away from happening. But for right now, closed captioning is where you will generate the captioning on your end, and then the student would have to do that step. And there's a video that will be ready on Monday that tells students exactly what they need to do that step. But again, all their step is double click on an icon, and they'll be able to view the captioning in any language that they want. Okay, so again, for closed captioning, we're kind of starting at the back end here. But this is what you will do as a teacher, and then we'll do open captioning second. So for closed captioning, what you're going to do is set up an account for yourself. And I think, Heather, you've already set those accounts up, right?
I have, yes.
Okay, so hopefully you all have your account, so you can thank Heather for doing that work for you. And what you will do then is log into Streamer using your account. And so that login, you're just going to www.streamer.center. You're going to log in using that account, and when you do, it's going to place you in a lobby. And depending on how Heather has set this up, right now I'm in the Northfield admin account, and so you can see all 30 rooms that the Northfield School District currently has for their website. You as an individual probably just have one room. Is that how you set it up, Heather? Or,
that's
okay.
Correct. Yep.
So when you log in, you're just going to see your room that you can use. And when you do that, you're just going to click on that room, and that's going to place you right there. So right now, I'm just happen to be in Kay Wilson's room number 17. But you will click on that room, and now everything is being captioned for you. So that's what it takes. The desktop shortcut, if you instead of having to open a browser, go to www.streamer.center and log in, you can create a desktop shortcut. And so the way that you do that is you go into your room, come up here to the Chrome settings. And by the way, we're using Chrome. You need to use Chrome for a Streamer to caption your speech. We're coming up here to the Chrome settings. We're going down to more tools and then clicking on create shortcut. So in my case, I already have a shortcut on my desktop, so I won't click create. But that's all you would do is click that create button. And when you do that, you'll have a desktop shortcut, which looks something like this right here. So, so I've just had my cat join me. So it's the life of working from home, I guess. But yeah, let me stop here again. So again, just to review, for closed captioning, Heather has already set up an account for you. You're going to go to the website, www.streamer.center, and log in. When you do, you will see your designated room. Just click on that room name, and then click the microphone down here, and everything will be captioned. Okay, let me pause again, open it up for questions.
Yeah, Rob, right now, all I see is the Interact Streamer captioning. I can't see you. Is that what I'm supposed to be seeing?
Yeah, right now I haven't displayed my video, so you're just seeing the captioning going across here.
So
Um,
we can know if we want, you know, the students to see ourselves as well, then how does that work so that they can see
well,
the
let's try
pictures?
it. And so right now, can you see me now?
Yes,
Or,
Mhm.
I
okay.
can.
Yeah,
Oh,
let me,
that, I don't know.
I'm
That was
sorry?
me. That was Terry.
That's Terry
Yeah.
with my name on your picture.
Yeah.
Too. That's funny.
You're all of us. Yeah. So we can switch back and forth between our keynotes and our everything. This is
Oh,
just
there we
an
go.
add-on to Zoom, right?
This is not an add-on to Zoom. This runs parallel with Zoom. Looks like I have my
Well,
Star
right.
Trek bridge as my background. So, um, yeah, I could, this one will get a laugh out of some people. Let's see, just how many of you recognize that background?
Oh, The Office, yeah.
The Office.
All right, let's go to my cluttered real space here. Um, yeah, so this is not an add-on to Zoom. This runs in parallel with Zoom.
Right.
So whatever application you're using, Skype or anything like that, this will run at the same time as you're using those other applications.
Okay.
Now, a week from now, we are going to have this, I guess you would call it an add-in to Zoom. And so that doesn't exist right now, but that's coming very soon. And that will be directly coupled into Zoom. And so that particular module will only work with that platform. But what I'm demonstrating right here will work with Skype calls or, you know, however you're interfacing with students and parents. You know, for example, IEP meetings, how are you doing that? Are you doing that with Zoom as well? Or are you using Skype or some other platform?
Zoom typically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, this new add-in that's coming a week from now will certainly be of benefit to you, and that's something you'll want to look into. How many of you are sharing a desktop versus showing a live video feed? Is sharing a desktop something fairly common or not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It is?
I go
Yes.
between both. I share my desktop and I do live feed as well. I go back and forth.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. I'm gonna have a cat walking across my keyboard here at some point during this. So if you see a bunch of crazy letters, you'll know the cat is typing. Oh man, it's
Yeah, that's a good excuse. I'm going to use that one. I'm doing a demo. The cat is typing.
yes,
You should
the
show us
cat.
your cat too, by the way.
The
Just
cat,
saying.
the cat is typing. Yeah. So am I still on a video feed or not? I don't even know.
No. Oh, what a pretty kitty.
You see the cat? Okay.
Well, I did not there.
So there's my cat. Yeah. All right, cat, you disappear. Sorry. Okay. So what the slides here are kind of standard
Mhm.
template, but I just want to show you that I can have the captioning done underneath at the same time as showing a slide. And so if you're doing the sharing of your desktop or whatever it is, you can do that. Okay. All right, let me jump here a little bit.
So did you resize your PowerPoint window smaller then? And can you rearrange those windows to show more or less of the captioning?
Right. Yeah. So I can do that. And I can, so again, this is running in parallel. So if I want to make this PowerPoint a little bit bigger, I can do that. And have that, in a sense, on top of the captioning that's shown underneath. So here's the captioning itself, and then here's the PowerPoint presentation or a video or whatever you're showing on your screen. And so again, open and close captioning. So open is when everyone sees it. So if I were, actually I am recording this. So in this recording, people will be able to view the captioning that's being displayed at the bottom of the screen. And so if you're recording, then you probably want to use open captioning. And this is how I prefer to do it. One small little tip here is, let me bring the captioning up. Over on the right here, I have these various phrases that I can enter. As a teacher, you're probably not going to do that, so you probably want to hide that that panel, and so that way you just see more captioning instead of that side panel. Just a small little tip. And also, I showed you that earlier, but we'll do this real quick again, or maybe I didn't show that to you. I give so many webinars during a day. You have the ability to decrease and increase the font size. And so I tend to go with 150, but if for some reason you want it to be bigger, you could go ahead and do that as well, just to make it easier for students to view it. Okay, so again, this is the open captioning where everybody sees it. And we talked about closed captioning. One of the advantages of closed captioning is that the students can view and hear what you're saying in whatever language they prefer. And perhaps not as big of an issue for students as it is for parents or guardians. And so if you have a parent that would prefer to speak Somali or Spanish or Vietnamese or Cambodian or whatever it might be, and you want to reach out to them, everything that you're saying in English will be presented to them in their language, and they're going to respond in their language, and you're going to hear it in English. Okay, so let me know if that's a need for you, and give me a call, and we'll be able to set that up and show you how that works. Okay, let me pause again. Questions? Okay, let me keep going. So what we've done with Streamer is that there is front-end work in order to configure your system. So you're going to spend some time on doing that, and Heather has done most of that for you already. She's created user accounts for you, and we've set up rooms for you. And what you as a teacher need to do now is create accounts for your students to use. So let me show you how that's done. I'm going to get out of this, and how should I do that? I'll pull up another browser window, and we're going to go to streamer.center. Okay, and so let me make this so you can see the captioning again. My poor little computer is struggling here with all these windows open. So what I'm going to do is create a user account for students to use. So the student account could be one that you set up specifically for that student. So if you're a special ed teacher and maybe you have, I don't know, what's the right number, 50 students that you are serving, at that point, you probably want to create a separate account for each student. It doesn't take that long to create an account, and I'll show you that in a minute. If, on the other hand, you are a general ed teacher and you have 7 class periods, and each class period has 30 students, and so you have something like 200 students over the course of a day, that might be getting a little much to create 200 separate accounts for each student. So in that scenario, you'll create what we call a shared account, and all the students would log in using that identical shared account. Either way, creating them is the identical steps, and we have a video that I can send to you afterwards that takes you through this. But all you're going to do is go to streamer.center, click on the login button, and instead of logging in, now we're going to click on the create one button down here. Okay, and when I do that, here is the username, and so you can create whatever kind of account you want. So if it were an individual student, maybe you'd want to create one for a student called Chris Smith. The name that you enter cannot have any spaces in it. So if you notice very carefully there, between Chris and Smith, I used a dot. That seems to be the common format to use. And then what we would do is enter the email. This email is only going to be used if the student forgets their password. We do not send out any advertising emails or marketing emails or instructions on how to use their Streamer website emails. This is only used if they forget their password. If they forget it, there's a reset password link that will send to that email address. Set up the country, and so in this case, I'll use US, I don't know, English, I guess, or Spanish. But there are a lot of different languages that you can select here. So depending on your situation, you can create that account. The preferred voice, for most situations, you can probably ignore that. Where that gets used is if you're going to have Streamer generate speech for the student. So if the student does not have the ability to speak, this is the voice that will be used to generate speech that they enter. This also gets used in language translation scenarios. So again, if you have a parent that would prefer to speak Cambodian, whatever you select for your preferred voice, I'll select Matthew. That voice is going to be used to pronounce what you're saying in English. It's going to be pronounced in Cambodian using that voice. So you just want to pick a voice that's somewhat similar to yours. Don't spend too much time thinking about it. It's very easy to change that voice at any given time afterwards. And then you'll enter the password, and I'll shrink this down a little bit. You'll enter the password, which just needs to be 8 characters in length, confirm it, and click on register. And so that's what it takes to create a user account. Now, if I did that without talking and explaining it through, it's probably about a 30-second process. The name, the email, and the password is really all you're entering.
I did it for about 30 teachers yesterday in about 45 minutes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so that was a little more than a minute getting
But
started.
that was, sorry, that was actually that was creating the account and then going in and giving them access to the room. So.
Oh yeah, nope, that'll add to it. Yeah, giving access to the room is the second step. And I haven't gotten that part, but Heather just gave you a little preview of the next step. So creating the accounts and giving them access to your rooms, then count on a little bit over a minute. 30 accounts took 45 minutes. So that's it for creating the account. Oh, I forgot to mention. So if I'm creating a shared account, I'll do the exact same thing. So again, a shared account is a situation where you have multiple students that are going to access the same room. And so if I were a teacher, I could use Palmquist dash English. And all the students then, if I have 200 students for whatever reason, they could log in using that exact same account, and they would see the captioning in English, or I would create one for Spanish, my Spanish students. In this case, then I'm going to pick Spanish as the language for them. And so that's how you create user accounts. So that's the process for making that happen.
When you do a group account, Rob, then for the email, are you just going to use your own email?
That's what I'd recommend. Yep. Because again, this is going to be used for resetting the passwords. Let's talk a little bit about security here. We take security very seriously, so every user account needs to have a password. If you want to make it simpler for students to access that, the password you select will only be numbers and special characters, no letters. And so that little tip is because lowercase and uppercase sometimes gets confusing. And so if you're using just numbers and special characters, you know, then there is no uppercase and lowercase that gets them confused. So just a little tip. One of the teachers shared that with me, so I thought I'd in turn share that with you. Let me go back to some slides here. I'm going to jump through forward, so kind of close your eyes for a minute. Okay. I want to talk about rooms versus user accounts because sometimes this concept gets a little confusing. So what we've been talking about so far, just recently anyways, is the accounts. So within Streamer, you have a virtual classroom. So I want you to think of this as your physical classroom. You know, back ages ago when we were actually on campus and students were coming to the physical schools, you had a classroom. And so think of the Streamer room as being a virtual classroom. It's that exact same type of room. With your subscriptions, what you're getting is a room that you'll be able to use and your students will be able to use. Okay? Now, user accounts is how you and the students access the rooms. So back, back in January, when students were actually in school, they would just walk into your room. There wasn't somebody checking their ID at the door. In the virtual world, we are checking their ID at the door. We do not let them in unless they log in using that password and the account. That's required for security. User accounts are completely free. You can create as many as you want without limitations. And so again, a personal account or a shared account. So just a little graphic I threw together here quickly. You could create an individual account for each student if you want. Absolutely great if you do that. Take some time. And so in this case, I have 3 students that I created personal accounts for. And then I created in this scenario just a shared account. And so you can have as many students as you want, use that single shared account, and they can all jump into your Streamer room. So again, the reason I'm going over this is so many people think of software as though you purchase a license per user. Software companies tend to do that. They love charging per user because they're going to get you, your toe in the water, and you're going to start using the system, and then you're going to start paying for all these additional licenses per student, and before you know it, you're spending hundreds if not thousands of dollars. We don't do that. We charge you per room, and you can share that room with as many students as you want. So again, we have these shared accounts and personal accounts, created identically the same way. The only difference is a personal account will be used by an individual, whereas a shared account can be used by as many people as you share the credentials for, the name and the password. Okay, let me pause again. Questions about that? Okay. All right, so Heather gave you a sort of advance notice there of step 2. So number 1 is we've created the account, and number 2 is we are going to allow that account to have access to the room. So I'm going to close the slides here, and we're going to close this one and get back to just captioning. So what you have in your lobby, when you log in, you are going to see your particular room that you have been granted and assigned to, and then you're going to jump into that room, and what you're going to do is allow that new account to have access to your room. So right now, if I did that, I would type the allow command. I hope you can see that at the bottom. And so I typed /allow. So / is that special character that you use for Streamer to let Streamer know that you've just entered a command. And so I'm going to allow a user account, and the other special command is the @ symbol, and that's used for user accounts. So I'm going to allow the account that I created. So if I created an account for Chris.Smith, if I've just created that, then I would click the allow @ Chris Smith, and at that point, Chris Smith would now have access to the room. So again, because we take privacy and security very seriously, by default, nobody has access to your room. The reason you have access to your room is because Heather went and did that process for you. She typed /allow and then gave the account she created permission to access your room. So again, just to repeat that, we're typing allow @ user, where user is the name of the account that you just created.
And no spaces, correct?
Great question. So the question there was no spaces. There is a space after the W.
That's what I thought I saw, but so there is one, okay.
Yep, there is a space after the W, and so you'll definitely want to do that. If after a while you can't remember exactly who you have allowed into your room, then you can type that allowed. Oops, let me turn off my captioning here because otherwise you don't see that. And so with the allowed, you can see a list of the people or the accounts that have permission to access your room. Oh, by the way, I see some stars up here. The filter, I have no idea what that word was, but we do, by default, the rooms are set to a very, very strict filter. And and that's what you want to just leave it at if you're a student. So this is very strict, and I won't demonstrate it live here, not intentionally anyways. But yes, there are filters that you can set. For example, I was just talking with a police department, and in their case, they do not want filters. It's important to them, if somebody's using profanity, they want that captured in the transcript, whereas a teacher, you want the opposite. So in your case, you're just going to ignore that. It exists, and be confident that it exists. All the commands are listed up here in the question mark, and that's going to show you all the commands that you have access to. But again, by far, there's a lot of commands here. Here's the set filter where we have it set for strict. But by far, the commands you are going to use is just this allow command. And I suppose if you want the allowed command, that is just going to show you the list. Okay? So those are the two that you're going to use, allow and allowed. Okay? Let me pause again. Any questions so far? Okay, so a quick review. What you're going to do as a teacher right now, you have the account, you have a room, you're going to go in and go to streamer.center. You're going to create a user account for your students. We went through that process, and we'll send you this video recording. And you can create either individual accounts for students or a shared account. After you've done that, then you're going to go log in with your teacher account, go into your room and type that aloud command. I'm sorry, the allow command. And when you type that allow command, at that point, they have permission to do that. Okay, those are the two basic features that we have going for you.
Rob, can you show us the open caption? I tried to do that yesterday when I was messing around with it, but it was asking me to download. And then when I tried to click on the download, it would tell me that I didn't have an application to open that.
Are you thinking of the overlay mode?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and okay, let's jump into that. So I'm going to clear this text here just to start fresh. Turn that off. And so there is a tool that some people use, and so certainly you're welcome to. It's called the overlay tool. I did that kind of fast. So what I'm doing is I'm coming up here to streamer settings, and then I'm coming down here to the overlay tool. So some various streamer settings here. So when I launch the overlay tool, and this only works on right now on a Windows platform. So we are creating a version for the Mac, but right now this only works for the Windows platforms.
So that's the problem. I was on a Mac.
Yeah, so the Mac version is underway. The developer that was working on that, unfortunately, I'll skip the story. It's not a happy story. But
now if you closed that streamer window, the Interact streamer, the captioning, the open caption stays there, correct?
Right. Yeah. So right now I have the overlay mode. And so everything that I'm saying is going to be superimposed on top of another screen. And I can change this. This is kind of a awkward color scheme that I have going here. So I'm going to change the transparency setting to the background, make it a little bit darker, I guess. But I can change the font size. I can change the spacing between the sentences. If I want to, I can have more sentences displayed instead of just the 3 there. Right now I'm logged in using this account called Northfield Admin. But if, for example, you open this up to students, and the students were also going to be captioned, whoever is talking at any given moment, their picture and their name is going to be shown here on the left. So this is the overlay mode. I tend to not use it that much, just because I'm more comfortable with the other approach. Let me pull back the streamer captioning window. But you can do either. And so whatever your preference is, you can certainly do either approach. So do you see how that works? Where the captioning is either going to be displayed in this main window, or you would display it using the overlay mode. And again, the overlay is, just as the name implies, it's going to be superimposed on top of whatever other application you have going.
That's really nice for class discussions when, you've got, then it changes who's talking. But we are pretty much, Northfield is primarily a Mac.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Right now, most of us probably don't have the capability to use that part.
Yeah, the Mac version will be coming out soon, and so by soon, I'm guessing it'll be this time next week. So it's not too far in the distance, that's for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and so that'll be the Mac version, but right now, certainly you can use this version. Some other sort of common questions: if you want to turn, by default, download is off, but with Northfield, I went ahead and turned it all on. If you want to turn off the ability to download, so for example, right now, if I come up here, I could download that transcript. If you want to turn that off, so you're not comfortable having a parent or a student download the transcript for whatever reason, you type the command set download no. Okay. And so when you do that, in my case, I'm an owner of the room here, I think. Nope, as I'm not. So right now you can see that little, maybe you can't, but there's a little circle with a slash through it.
Yeah.
So I no longer have the ability to download the transcript. So again, if you're in a particular setting or situation where you're uncomfortable with students being able to download it, then you would go ahead and do that. So we've covered the allow command and then allowed to show you that. And now we just showed you the set download command. And this time I'm going to turn it back on. Okay. I'm trying to think of other commands that you have, and that's, you know, other stuff gets a little more advanced. If, for example, you want to set auto clear, I'll just tell you this exists. I won't necessarily show it to you. But auto clear is a way to clear the transcript. So at the end of each class period, if you want the transcript automatically cleared, so for the next class period, it's going to be a fresh slate, you would use the auto clear command. So all the details here again in the help menu, and you can read about that. Auto clear will, you can set it up to clear every sentence. So just like you would see captioning on a television program, when the new sentence is spoken, the old one goes away forever. We do it a little bit smarter than what a TV can do. You could have it auto clear every 10 minutes. You could have it auto clear at 1 a.m. every morning, or you could have it auto clear at the end of the class period. So that's the auto clear feature. And again, trying to think of other ones that you might use, and that's probably it. By far, it's going to be the allowed command and allowed, which shows you that. Okay, right here, allow and allowed. Those are by far the two that you're going to use the most. Okay, any other questions that you have? You've been kind of a quiet audience here.
If we play a movie or a clip from YouTube, will it also translate that speaker?
Yeah, and let's put some expectations around that. So if you are, you know, let's pick two extremes. So on one extreme, you have a professional narrated video, something from National Geographic or something like that, where you have somebody enunciating their words very clearly, then it's going to nail it. So we're very happy in that type of situation. Now let's go on to the other extreme where we have a Civil War movie or some war movie, and you have bombs going off and people screaming and shouting and all that kind of stuff happening. All bets are off. So it just depends on the type of video that you're displaying in terms of being able to caption it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but if that video has closed captioning, would we be able to disengage this for a while we let that video show with its own closed captioning?
Yeah, so you just click the microphone.
Okay.
And so
Gotcha.
when I click the microphone, that's turned off.
Okay.
And I'll turn it back on again because I kind of like having captioning. But yes, that's how you would do that, turning it on and off. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to jump into a whole new topic here in a minute, unless you have some questions. So I'll jump into something brand new on you. Okay, so the brand new item that's a lot of people have been asking, and so we're going to do this. So I mentioned earlier a brand new feature coming in where we're going to be able to tie directly into Zoom. And so that's coming. But another one that's coming is called Caption All. And that will be ready again in about a week from now. And with Caption All, what that's going to do is automatically caption any audio that's being played on your computer. So with that scenario, with Caption All, now you as a teacher would not have to do anything. If the student wants to view the captioning, they would launch Caption All on their end. And again, any audio that's being played on that student's computer would be able to be captioned. And so we're, you know, in this scenario, you've had Heather that's gone through and done the work for you. So thank you, Heather, for doing that. In many school districts, it's kind of been the opposite, where the students are doing the work and the teachers are just overloaded. And so the Caption All will be a scenario where the students that want to view the captioning will log into Streamer. They'll set up their own account, log into Streamer, and simply be able to caption any incoming audio. The teacher doesn't have to do anything in that scenario. Literally in that scenario, the teacher wouldn't even know if the student is generating the captioning. Because again, any audio that's being played on that student's computer, they would be able to caption it on their own, be it a Skype call or a YouTube video or a Google Meets or anything like that. And they'll be able to do all the various features, add notes to it and that kind of thing. So that's called Caption All, and that's coming soon as well.
Rob, is that going to be something that can be used on an iPad?
On an iPad, probably not.
That's what all of our students have.
Yeah, so probably not. It's a great question to ask. It certainly can be used on a Chromebook, which a lot of districts have, but not Northfield, and a Windows and a Mac OS platform. But an iPad, I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to the developers. By far, our focus right now, unfortunately, is the non-iOS devices. Yeah, let me explain that because I want you to know the rationale of why we do that. Everything that we do is very much private and secure. That's by far our policy. We follow that in every instance that we do. With Apple, they fight us. They fight developers on locking Apple from gaining access to all the information. Apple wants to sell your data to everyone else, just like Google. But Apple in particular, with an iOS device, so that would be an iPad and an iPhone, they force developers to give them access to any voice recordings. So anytime you use a microphone on an iOS device, Apple is recording that and uses that data to sell it to third parties and stuff like that. So the way we got around that is, and Apple got upset with us, but it doesn't matter, we're in compliance with them, is that when you use a microphone on an iPhone or an iPad, we have a free app that you download. So you can view the captioning on an iPad absolutely fine. But if you want to use the microphone on an iPad, you need to download our free app. And what we do is that microphone voice recording is encrypted, 64-bit encryption. So Apple still gets the voice recording, but it's complete nonsense to them. It's encrypted with 64-bit, which is a lot. And so there's no way they can decipher it or use it or anything like that. So that's what our iPad and iPhone app does, is it encrypts the microphone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Again, we are locking Apple out from taking that data and selling it to somebody else. They made us go through an extra hoop to do that. So with the Caption All, I'm not sure what that will involve. I'll have to check into that. Initially next week, it's not going to run on the iPad though.
Okay.
It does run happily though on a very low cost device. And so literally for a $39 or whatever Amazon is charging for their Fires now, you could run it on that device. So I know nobody's sitting on, bags of gold and they're going to go buy everybody a $49 or $39 tablet. The point being that there is a very low cost option that could be provided to a student if you run into that particular situation. This does not need to be a $1,000 laptop or something like that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so before I wrap up here, let me just pause again and see what sort of questions we have. We've gone way over our time limit, which is good for me, but I'm fine with that. Yeah, so let me just pause and see what sort of questions you have. Okay, let me wrap up here real quick and then kind of review what we did. So what Heather has done for you is already set up an account, so hopefully you have that account information. What you're going to do is go to www.streamer.center and log in using that account. When you do, you will see your lobby. In the lobby, you're going to have your room, and then at the very bottom will be this public and open demo room. Don't use the demo room. Anybody can see that, so that is not secured. So you're going to use your private room, You're going to jump into that room, and then you're going to create yourself a desktop shortcut. Clicking on the Chrome settings, go to More Tools, and create shortcut. That is how you're going to access your streamer room from now on. Then what you're going to do is create the student accounts. So we stepped you through that. So either that can be an individual account for each student, or it can be a shared account. So again, you're going to go to streamer.center. You're going to click on Login. And in this case, you're going to click on the Create One. I'll send you a follow-up email with videos on how to do this and various other information. But you'll create it and then click on Register. And then as the final step, what you're going to do is go back into your teacher account, come down into your room, and use that allow command, allow space at user, where user is the name of the account you created, and that is going to give permission for the student to be able to view your room. The other tips that we went over real quick, the ability to change font size. I typically use 150. It just kind of works for me. Streamer will remember that setting, so the next time you log in, it'll be set for you to do that. And then we talked about the download features and the ability to turn that on and off. And also for the students, the ability to add notes to their transcript. By default, every account that you create will have some of these. The other notes, if they want to add them, they'll go to the account settings, click on this phrases tab, and here's where you can create new notes or delete existing ones. That's about it. That's about all I was going to cover for today. The final thing I will show you, if I can get back to my slides, we'll go right to the very end. Let's see if I can get to the end quick. There's so many slides here. I should show you this one. If you're doing open captioning, or I'm sorry, closed captioning, when you do start a presentation, for example, when Matt Hillman did his, I think we had a slide like this, where he just told the guests, Matt Hillman did a presentation for the entire city, and we told the guests ahead of time how they could log in. And so there's a slide, and we have a template, so I'll give you a link for using that particular template as well. There's got to be a way to jump to the end of these slides, all right? Who knows what that is? All right. There's my phone number, 507-645. It just disappeared. Sorry about that. There it is, 507-645-8924. That'll get me to the office. And if you want to reach me, my extension is 210. And just give me a call. And we can answer any sort of questions that you might have, or point you in the right direction. Tell you where an article is on the item that you want to learn about, or a video if you prefer to watch videos. Okay. All right. Anything else, Heather? Anybody else?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I will connect with the staff as well and make sure that everybody is able to access the video, and check to see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I'll generate a video of this. I've been recording it, so I'll send that to everybody that signed into this webinar. You'll automatically get a link, and I'll include some other links there, probably more info than you possibly want, but I'll include some other links that are of interest to you. And again, thanks, Heather, for setting this up, and just give me a call or send me an email, and we'll make sure and get everything working for you. Okay, have a great weekend, everybody.
You too, thank you.
Yeah, bye now.